In my house growing up, Dad was a sound behind a closed door. He worked nights, which meant my sister and I spent our childhoods creeping about on tiptoes or whispering in the hallway. We learned early on that a man's primary function was, apparently, exhaustion. He left home before the sun was up and returned after we'd been tucked up in bed. On the real weekends, he wasn't catching up on sleep, he was off fishing with his mates. He was the provider. He kept the roof over our heads and food on the table, but he rarely got to eat with us. He never got to see me play football for my local team. Now, of course, by the standards of his time, he was doing his job, although with hindsight, the standards of the 1970s were questionable, to say the least. It was an age in which Rolf Harris was an ideal children's entertainer. It was an age in which Gary Glitter was just the sort of person to be surrounded by teenage fans and groupies. It was a time when we saw Jimmy Savile as quirky. But as I stood on the touchline years later watching my own sons playing football or sitting in the front row of my daughter's dance recitals, I realised that the definition of doing your job had fundamentally changed. For my generation, being a man isn't just about the pay packet. It's about being there for the grazed knees, the broken hearts, the school plays, and the quiet moments that actually build a child into a person. As a generation, we decided to be more than just the blokes who put the money on the table. We wanted to be the blokes who were actually sat at the table. Yet, as I look around the demolition and construction sites of today, it feels as though the industry is stuck in a completely different century. We still expect men to travel hundreds of miles, to live in digs, to raise their children via a FaceTime screen. We still treat a 60-hour week like a badge of honour rather than a failure of planning. We're building a world, but we're dismantling families to do it. There's a common misconception in our industry that as long as the mortgage is paid and the kids have the latest trainers, we're doing our bit as fathers. But discipline isn't about barking orders when you finally walk through the door on a Friday night. Real discipline is caught, not taught. It's the steady daily presence of a man who quietly shows his children how to handle frustration, how to treat others with respect. When a father is notable by his absence, it creates a vacuum, and for a young lad, that vacuum is often filled with the internet, by their peers, or by a sense of resentment. If the only time little Jake ever sees his dad is when his dad is absolutely shattered and short tempered from a 12-hour shift, Jake isn't learning about hard work. He's learning that work is a thief. He's learning that his father's vital job is seen as more important than his own childhood memories. In this industry, we talk a lot about structural integrity. But what about the structural integrity of a child's upbringing? You can't shore up a relationship via video call. You can't delegate the role of protector and mentor to a screen. If we're not there to provide that anchor, we shouldn't be surprised when the next generation drifts. Consider Jake. Jake's dad works in demolition. He's a hard worker, his dad, loyal company man. And he's currently missing Jake's sports day because he's on a site 3 counties away. Now, Jake's best mate, Tommy, has a dad who works a regular 9 to 5. Tommy's dad's there for every match, every goal, and every trophy. When Jake grows up, what is he going to think of the trades? Is he going to look at his dad coming home dirty, bruised, and too drained to even kick a ball about and think, yep, that's the life for me? Or is he going to see a career that demands everything and gives nothing in return? Then there's the toll on the man himself. We're currently living through a mental health crisis in the construction and demolition sectors, and we keep asking why, while ignoring the obvious. There's a specific quiet agony in sitting in a lonely B&B, scrolling through photos of your daughter's first school play that you missed because you were needed on a site 200 miles away. That's not providing, that's sacrificing the very things you're supposed to be providing for. We've been conditioned to believe that manning up means burying those feelings and getting on with the job. But those missed firsts, the first steps, first day at school, they're the things that really matter. Take it from me, they don't last long. You can't reclaim them. There is no overtime for a missed childhood. And perhaps the most poignant part of all of this is the finish line. You see it all the time. The veteran who finally hangs up his hard hat, ready to enjoy his family at long last. But he walks into a house where he is effectively a stranger. His children have grown up with lives of their own, and they've spent the last 20 years learning to live without him. He finds himself sitting in a front room, looking at people he loves, but he doesn't really know. He missed the context of their lives. He missed the inside jokes, the subtle shifts in personality, and the years of bonding that happen in the boring bits of life between 5 p.m. and bedtime. Surely it's a tragedy to spend your entire life building a legacy only to find out that you've been locked out of it. The demolition and construction industry is one of the last bastions of absentee father culture. We speak about manpower as if it's an infinite resource, something to be mined and spent until there's nothing left but a shell of a bloke with a bad knee and a distant relationship with his kids. What is a man? A man's a provider, yeah? In many of our households, he is the primary engine of the family economy. But being a provider isn't just about the money in the bank account. A man provides stability, he provides a moral compass, he provides the laughter at the dinner table and the comfort after a bad day at school. But he can only do those things if the industry allows him to. When will our bosses, our project managers, and our stakeholders realise that a man who sees his children is a better worker? A man who isn't drowning in the guilt of missed birthday is more focused, more loyal, more productive. As an industry, we pride ourselves on getting the job done. Yet the most important job any of us will ever do isn't on site. It's the job we have at home. It's time the demolition and construction world stopped treating family time as a nuisance or an inconvenience and started treating it as a fundamental requirement. So I'll ask again, what is a man? He's the bloke who leaves work in the dark, but he's also the bloke who makes it home in time for a bedtime story. He's the one who works hard to give his kids a better start, but stays close enough to actually watch them take it. As a society, we've seen a massive shift in a single generation. We've moved away from the silent, selfish tiptoeing of my father's era towards something more connected, more human. The world has changed. The men have changed. Surely it's time for the industry to catch up. What is a man? A man is someone who has a job and a family and who realizes that the two aren't mutually exclusive.